Good morning and welcome to this latest in our series of Lent-in-a-bag videos. Now on the third Sunday of Lent, and so ready to open our third Sunday envelope and see what's inside. So I hope you've been not peeping ahead. Let's find the one that says 7th of March. And let's open them. Inside, you should find, as usual, a card just explaining what our activity is this week, and a few cards to colour in. Now there's a reason for this. We'll come to that in a moment. So, we'll come back to these. But why have we got these cards? Well, today, and through this week, our theme in Live Lent, which we're following as a church, is about communicating like Jesus. About thinking about how we pass on the good news of God's love in Jesus' story and our story. And in a moment I'll read one of the key stories that we read this week. You see, usually we print the key Bible reading on the back of the card, but this one's a bit too long to fit on a card without you having to use a magnifying glass to read it. So you will need to find it in your Bible. And you'll find it's actually split over 2 days this week. But this is the story from Luke chapter 8. It starts at verse 46. Now when Jesus returned, a crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. Then a man named Jairus, a synagogue leader, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to his house because his only daughter, a girl of about 12, was dying. As Jesus was on his way, the crowds almost crushed him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." And the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." While Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. "Your daughter's dead," he said. "Don't bother the teacher anymore." Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid. Just believe, and she will be healed." When he arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother. Meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning for her. "Stop wailing," Jesus said. "She's not dead, but asleep." They laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But he took her by the hand and said, "My child, get up." Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished, but he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened. It's a story with lots in it, and huge emotions we can only imagine for the people involved. But the key thing that we're thinking about this week is how Jesus treats, as individuals, and in different ways, how he speaks to, in different ways, the people who come to him for help. To the woman who suffered from bleeding, who he heals, but then brings into the public so that everyone can know that she's healed and clean. It's an whole idea of ceremonial cleanness that's hard for us to understand, but she needed to have that public so that she could be let back into society. But then Jairus' daughter, Jesus treats very differently. Everything's kept quiet. He doesn't want her to spend the rest of her life being the miracle child. He treats people as he finds them, as they are. but he communicates, he speaks. He doesn't let things happen without building relationship as well. Now, as an aside, if you haven't seen it, it's worth having a search online for a video called The Miracle Maker. I think it's all now available online and hard to get otherwise. And that's an animated story that tells the story of Jesus from the point of view, often, of Jairus' daughter. She's a key character in there. It's a lovely film, well worth watching for children and adults. But anyway, back to the cards. So, this week, I'd like to encourage you to think about who you can communicate with. Now, it might be that there's just someone you know, either a neighbour or someone further away, who needs some cheering up, some encouragement, something to help them to hope and be positive. Or maybe there's someone that actually you want to start talking to about what God's doing in your life. But everyone's different. The message you want to give people is different, and the people to whom we want to speak are different. That's why we've given you more than one card. And for those of you who are doing this as families, we've tried to give you a bit more of a supply and a bit more of a choice. And we're trying to make sure that some of them are quite simple and some of them are a bit more detailed. Because what we'd like you to do is to think of someone you want to communicate with. Something positive, something to encourage them, or something about God's love for them. And think about what it is that you want to say. And then with that person in mind and with your message in mind, have a look at the cards you've got and choose one. And then colour it in. Now, colouring in isn't just something for children to do, although it's a great thing for children to do. Adults can do it as well. It's a good way of focusing our attention, and while you colour in the card and get it ready for someone as a gift, try to concentrate on that person, pray for them as you colour. It's a good way to focus, to be mindful in modern terminology, and often a good way to pray for someone. Have them in your heart, mind and soul. Colour in the card, write your message on the back, and then whether it's pushed to the letterbox if it's a neighbour, safely of course, or whether it's something you put in the post to someone a bit further away, send that message, your prayers and your love, and who knows what God will do. So think about the people to whom you want to communicate, think what you want to say, think who they are, think which card would be best for them, and then make it as beautiful as you can. Get it to them with your message from God. So, that's for this week. Have a good week. May God bless you and watch over you, and may you know His presence and His joy. Bye for now.